So, what am I doing in a Ferrari Testarossa? That's a good question. And explaining that involves a bit of background. One of the many jobs I have is actually an exotic car mechanic, and I also deal with bikes and all kinds of weird things. I'm an engineer, and after quite a while working in the entertainment business, I went into business for myself, fixing these things and building them and customizing them and all kinds of fun stuff. That's my primary business. I decided early on I wasn't going to plug the business on Loco, so I'm not going to tell you what the shop is, but if you're in the tri-state area or anywhere else for that matter and you need some work on an exotic or something of that nature, feel free to give me an email, head on over to leonloco.com, post a comment, and I'll take care of you if I possibly can. So why am I driving this? Well, this is actually a customer car. Came into the shop for a little work. And first I should point out, you never, ever, ever want to drive a customer car without A, a gigantic boatload of insurance, and B, their full knowledge and blessing that you're taking it out. Many things on cars like these, you really can't deal with them without driving them and diagnosing problems, as well as check for leaks and so forth without getting them hot. And the only way to get the oil hot in these things, this car has almost 3 gallons of oil in it. The only way to get that warm is by driving the thing. So that's why I'm driving it. And I figured I'd do a little video and share the experience of the last mid-engine V12 Ferrari. And the first thing I should say about the Testarossa is it actually is a V12, even though the cylinders are flat, as is the case in a boxer engine like in a Porsche. It is in fact a 180-degree V12. The reason for that is the crank configuration is of a V engine, not a boxer engine. So this is the last V12 or any 12-cylinder rear engine car that Ferrari made, and it is a heck of a thing. If you ever watched Miami Vice as a kid like I did growing up, and you said, one day I'll drive that car, well, I popped my cherry on that about 10 years ago, and since I've driven dozens of these cars and fixed dozens of these cars. They are really an elegantly simple vehicle. I mean, there's some things, given that they're quite old. This car is 3 decades old. And it has mechanical Bosch fuel injection, which is if it's set up right, it's okay, but it's nothing like the reliability and smoothness of a modern electronic sequential injection system. But it works. There's always things you can improve. In fact, one of the things I do for these cars quite often is I do a full EFI conversion to a Motec system, which makes it start properly in the cold and gives it about another 30-40 horsepower, just because of the advanced electronics and timing that is possible now, which wasn't possible 30 years ago. So I figured I would take the opportunity to talk a little bit about what it's like to own one of these and what it's like to drive one of these. First, driving. It's hilarious in that all of the control inputs are murder. Everything is heavy. There's no power steering. There's no ABS. There's no floppy paddles. You are doing everything to this car. Brakes, gears, throttle. It is very raw, very visceral. Nothing gets between you and the car, which if you're an old school guy like myself, you absolutely love. Even though, muscling this thing around a parking lot is not the most fun in the world. But hey, you're not going to drive this to get friggin' groceries or take the dog to the dog washing depot. It's not what it's for. This is the kind of car you're going to buy to take out on the weekends, perhaps buy it as an investment. I'll get into that a little bit later, and enjoy occasionally, and really enjoy it when you do. That's why you buy an old Ferrari or an old Lamborghini or anything like that. So the seating position, you know, the ergonomics are comical. As you can probably see, I'm driving this thing like a shifter cart with my knees wrapped around the steering wheel. Granted, I'm 6'5", so if you're shorter, you know, if you're a member of the vertically challenged segment of humanity, you will have less of an issue driving one of these things than I do. But even if you're 6'5", it isn't bad. You know, you could drive this for a couple hundred miles on a road trip, and you wouldn't hate your life. And once it's going, you know, the controls are actually not bad. I mean, yeah, the steering is still heavy, but that's okay. It gives you a lot of feedback. It makes you think twice about yanking it into a corner really hard, which is a good thing. Because these things, when you get them loose, they handle like they're drunk. They handle like Lambo Murcielagos, which are terrifying on the edge. Just because the suspension is set up by drunken Italians before they started deciding they had to care about that kind of thing. And the Testarossa is definitely a member of that tribe. But giving it the beans, you know, that glorious engine note, shifting your own gears in a V12 Ferrari is one of the most sublime bucket list things you can do. If you've never done it, find a way to do it, either rent one or whatever it takes, because it is a hell of a thing. Nothing sounds like it. Nothing has the torque of it. Nothing has the I don't know what, the je ne sais quoi, as they say, of a Ferrari V12, especially a mid-engine one, which are really special. It gets looks. You know, everyone, if you ask a kindergartner to draw an exotic car, it's probably still going to be either a Testarossa or a Countach or a Diablo, something like that, because those cars are icons. This is why. They go really quick and they sound really awesome. They don't handle that great, the older ones, but that's not what it's about. Although this thing is not bad. I mean, the biggest problem this car has, it has these massive 16-inch balloon tires on it, which if you swapped it out for modern wheels and tires, like Michelin Pilot Supersport, they're way better. And you can also do quite a lot with the suspension, because it is quite simple. You know, there's no electronic setting magneto crap on it, no magnet fluid. It's, if you want to change the suspension, you just change the suspension. So you go to, like, you know, Penske or KW, and you get a good set of coilovers for it, and that helps it immensely. Just don't want to piss people off here too much. I mean, like, it gets looks even from old soccer moms, unfortunately. So you can do a lot to make them a better car to drive fast, but ultimately the Testarossas, in fact most of the V12 Ferraris, are not really about hitting the track and hitting the twisties and going, you know, ludicrous speed. They're pretty much GT cars. They're for a grand tour. They're for, okay, I'm going to Vegas for the weekend, or I'm going to Atlantic City for the weekend, or I'm just going to drive to Miami in my Ferrari because I can. That's what these things are for, and they do that exceptionally well. It's an experience, you know, you'll take to your grave, having done it once. And if you own one, you know, you're doing that every other weekend if you're in any way sane. So that's what the cars are for. Driving them is an experience. You know, it's like a really awesome roller coaster. You don't necessarily want to do it every day. You certainly don't want to deal with one of these in traffic. But when you go to the amusement park, you know, you open the garage and say, now it's time for some fun. Oh, they're amazingly good. This car is from the era of soulful Ferraris, as I tend to put it. Cars that really were just made to finance Enzo's racing team. You know, back in the day when they did sports car racing as well as F1, they had their fingers in a lot of pies. Hell, they even did rally cars, for Christ's sake, for a while out of the 308. That, for me, is the most interesting time for Ferrari. When they had money, Enzo was still very much involved in some of the later cars, like the legendary F40 and the 288 GTO and all that stupid crap, and this car. And it wasn't just about selling, you know, F1 nonsense to idiots. It wasn't about, oh, if you buy a car with our fluffy pedals, you'll drive as well as Michael Schumacher. No, you won't. You're just going to crash your fucking 360 on the 405 in California because you're an idiot. So, back when these cars were made, they were made kind of like Lamborghinis of the era. They were made for drivers. They were made for men who, you know, wooden ships and iron men, you know, to quote Leno. They require some skill and some effort to drive, and the payoff for that is immensely rewarding, much more so than essentially playing a video game. Like the new Ferrari 458 is a wonderful car, and it's like twice to 3 times as fast as this thing in every measurable way. But frankly, it's kind of boring to drive. It's just, okay, I'm in a fast video game that will not let me do anything naughty unless I turn everything off, in which case I'm going to immediately crash it because it's got 600 horsepower. So, I like the soulful Ferraris more. You know, you can't use them every day unless you're slightly nuts, but when you use them, oh, they're so much more enjoyable. So, that's what it's like to drive one of these things. Owning one, well, you need a bunch of money, but not necessarily as much as you might think. This Testarossa, I mean, you can get them in like the 90 to 100k range right now, which I realize is a pile of money for a lot of people. It's a pile of money for me. I don't own a Testarossa because I can't afford one. But you can't, you know, if you decide I must have a Testarossa or I must have, you know, a 80s to 90s soulful Ferrari, you can get one for, you know, anywhere between 60 and, well, if you go right down to like a beater 308, you can get one for like 30, 40 grand, but you really don't want one of those because you're going to spend another 30, 40 grand just making it run properly and not burn to the ground. So you're spending 60 to 100k to get a well-sorted, drivable, fairly reliable 80s or 90s Ferrari. Which is a bunch of money, but you know what? If you work hard and you know you finance the car, which is not difficult, and if you have decent credit, you know, hey, you could have 2 crappy SUVs, or you could have one of these. You know, what do you want to spend your money on? And it's if you're 25, you're probably not going to be able to finance something like this. But if you're 35 and you've been busting your ass for the last 10 years, or if you're 25 and looking for something to look forward to, bust your ass for the next 10 years. It's attainable by most people who are willing to, you know, work hard. And then, you know, once you have it, the really nice thing about a lot of these cars is they're appreciating ridiculously. This car right now, I could have bought this car for 50 or 60,000 5 years ago, which now it's about 100. And in 10 years, it'll probably be 180 to 200. And in 20 years, it'll probably be 400,000 or 500,000. So that's a pretty awesome investment. Much better than pretty much any financial instrument, short of getting it on, you know, pre-IPO tech stock. And in the meantime, you know, you don't just have a bunch of paper sitting in a trader's computer somewhere. You have a Ferrari to drive every weekend, which is a very awesome thing. And yeah, there's a possibility someone's going to crash into you and write the car off, but that's what insurance is for. And if you get collector insurance from like Haggerty or someone, you can just say, this is what this is the, you can get what's called agreed value insurance. You say, this is the amount of money I want if the car is written off or unfixable for X amount of dollars. And they say, okay, and here's what your premium is, and away you go. You really can justify it as an investment. If you want to save, you know, for the next 20 years, yeah, you can throw it in a CD and get, you know, 1% return or something. You can throw it in stock and maybe lose a 30-40% of your value before some wealth manager yanks the fucking chain on the stock that's going away. Or you can buy one of these, and if you buy the right car, which is pretty much any Ferrari or Lamborghini right now, as well as others, Maserati, early Maserati like Bora, excellent buy right now. They're going to go up a lot. You can make a pile of money over 10, 20 years. You know, it's a long-term thing because, you know, the market does sine wave a bit. You know, you don't buy it and then because it went down $2,000 in value, the next year immediately sell it. That's stupid. Keep it for 10, 20 years, enjoy it, and it will pay for itself many times over. And a lot of people are freaked out by maintenance on a car like this. Really isn't that bad. If you go to like a Ferrari branded dealer, yeah, you're going to get raped pretty hard, but find an independent like me, you know, not to blow my own horn, but it's not that bad. You're looking at a major service every 2 to 3 years, which on this car is about $4,500, which, yeah, is a chunk of money, but, you know, it's only about twice or 3 times what you'd spend to have a BMW or a Porsche service, so it's not really crazy money. But it is definitely something you don't want to neglect. You don't ever want to have a cam belt go out on one of these things, because your whole engine will just go and then it's, you know, a $40,000, $50,000 engine at least. You don't want to do that. You know, cam belts and oil are cheap, engines are not. Other than that, there isn't a whole lot that goes wrong on them. I mean, there's a few electrical gremlins on some cars. The early Testarossas like this one had fuse box issues, but again, you can pay someone like me to replace the whole thing for you with aircraft circuit breakers and really nice Deutsch connectors and so forth. Completely remove that issue for a couple grand. You know, $2,500 or so I think is what I charge for that. And you know, that's, again, sounds like a lot of money, but it's 40 hours of my life and about $1,000 worth of you know, components. So really, it's not bad for what it is. You will not get that deal in many other places unless they're a specialized motorsport wiring shop, and then they're going to charge you more for it. So you got to find the right guy to take care of it, and there are lots of independents. You know, if you're in the tri-state area, definitely call me. But you know, anywhere you're going to find a good, you know, exotic mechanic. If you go in any like the Ferrari or Lamborghini forums, you'll find a good independent in your local area, and you're going to support a guy who actually cares about the car. And most importantly, if you're dealing with the older cars like these Testarossas, 355s, 328s, you're going to find someone who deals with them more frequently than dealerships, because dealerships, they see a Testarossa maybe once or twice a year. I see a Testarossa once or twice a month. So I am intimately familiar with these cars because I specialize in them, and the same is true for like the Lambo Countach and the Diablos, especially the early Diablos. If you don't know those cars, boy, it's a minefield, and people can do some really dumb, expensive shit, and you'll never know about it unless you're, you know, a mechanic yourself. So find a good indie, and it's really not that ruinous to own one of these things. You know, and like I say, it's an excellent investment. So, yeah, Ferrari Testarossa. I hope you've enjoyed a little ride today. I'm probably going to do more of these in the cars section of Loco, because I do drive, as I said, a lot of really weird crap. And for the last 10 years, I've been kind of keeping that to myself. So I figured, hey, why not throw it on the channel and share it with you guys? So, Ferrari Testarossa, Loco, signing off. Hey, you like my channel? Well, hit the subscribe button, and I'll do more wheelies.